December 1, 2025 regular board meeting of Marshalltown Community School District. Welcome to all of you joining us here this evening. Welcome as well to anybody who might be watching via the live stream. We'll do introductions of board members and folks here before we get too much farther. Starting to my right, we have Zach Wall, Maria Morales, and Elizabeth Wise. To my left, we have Leah Stanley and Eric Goslinga. Immediately to my left is Dr. Theron Schutte, the superintendent of schools, and to my right is Mr. Randy Denham, our board secretary. I am Sean Heitman. We've also got three, I guess that would be all three of our student school board reps here this evening. Miley Dougal, Audrey Miller-Pfeiffer, and Namade Hartman. So welcome to them as well. We've got a pink sign-up sheet there on the speakers table for anybody who wants to address the board during public comment time. You will be given 5 minutes to address the board. Please understand that Iowa law prohibits the discussion of specific employees of the district or their job performance. Also, in accordance with board policy, board members will not respond to comments so that we can comply with open meeting laws. With all of those things out of the way, would you all please join me in reading the mission statement of the Marshalltown Community School District? We develop learners who have the knowledge, skills, and positive mindset to successfully pursue a meaningful future through personalized learning experiences. And please stand as you're able and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight?
There are not.
Then we need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Morales Wise. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Abby, you got some recognitions?
Either way. I can stand behind you. So we have one recognition for Iowa Cheer Honor Squad. The Marshalltown Community School District Board of Education wishes to formally recognize 3 outstanding seniors who have achieved a prestigious honor by being nominated and accepted to the Iowa Cheer Honor Squad. I will pass it over to head coach Val Corson, who will introduce the 3 that were recognized with this honor and kind of talk about what goes along with being a part of Honor Squad.
Thank you, Abby. So these are our 3 football cheer captains from fall season, seniors that I have coached. This is my 4th year, 8th season. Definitely leaders, and it's a great opportunity for Marshalltown to be represented in our state events. And there was approximately, it was over 220 cheerleaders or athletes in the state that got to do Honor Squad. They had 2 full-day practices, 1 Saturday practice, and then a full Thursday practice, and then they performed twice during the state football championships on a Friday. And so it was a lot of hard work. I'm very proud of them for getting out there, putting themselves out there. I think they actually really enjoyed it. But yeah, it was just wonderful to see them out there in our Bobcat attire and representing our school. And with that, I do have their official Honor Squad certificates from the Athletic Association for Iowa High School. And so the first one would be Adriana Maston. And then Miley Dougal. And Ellie Downs. You can't see it, but they do have, they got these nice medals for participating. We got a picture, and yeah, it was just a lot of fun. So I will get out the spotlight unless you have questions for them.
Can you girls tell us a little bit about the experience?
Here, you guys can sit.
Okay. I actually have a whole slide on this for later, just so you guys know. I'm gonna hear it all over again.
Now, to be clear, there are 3 chairs. You all 3 can sit down.
Come sit. Okay. Do you want to say anything first? I'm used to this.
What was the question again?
Oh, just tell us about the experience.
It was very fun. Our practices were very long, but they were very jam-packed with information and the
whole
content, yes. And it was very fun to get it all down and only have like 2 practices, but then go for it on the day of the game. And we performed 2 times, 2 half times for the morning game and then the afternoon game. And yeah, it was a fun experience to be a part of.
It was very boom, boom, boom. You
Yes.
get there at like 7 o'clock after wake up at 5:45, leave, and just get there, and then you have checking in pictures, and then you just got to sit there for a couple hours, and then they're like, "Hey, you guys have to sprint down to the field." We're like, "Okay, cool."
It was very fun.
And then it was like a 2-minute performance, and then we go back and do it all over again.
Yep.
And then until we wait for the next time.
Yep.
But yeah, it was super enjoyable, super fun, and I would honestly recommend it
Yes.
to anybody who does cheerleading. Any more questions?
How did you guys get selected?
Our coach, Miss
Yes.
Corson,
Yes.
she was like, "Hey, can I pick you guys?" And we're like, "Sure."
Yeah, so why don't you tell me?
My mouth hurts, but I think
You're okay.
I think the best thing about it was just meeting new people and just having that experience with these 2 girls and just having fun with them and the coaches.
Yeah.
Well,
Congratulations.
congratulations, girls.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, moving to the consent agenda, we've got minutes from the November 17th meeting. Jackie, anything to note in personnel?
We do have 3 new retirees who are taking advantage of the early incentive that the board approved. The first one is Danielle Platt, and this note comes from Miss Bergman and Miss Williams from Anson and Hoagland Elementary Schools. Danielle is retiring from the Marshalltown School District after 24 years of dedicated service. After many years in in-home daycare, Danielle started teaching at Anson Elementary as a kindergarten teacher with a passion for children and art. She taught kindergarten at Anson for 18 years. She then transitioned to an art teacher, sharing her talents between Hoagland and Anson Elementary. She has been an art teacher for Marshalltown Community School District for 7 years. Throughout her career, Danielle has inspired her students with her enthusiasm and support, fostering a classroom environment where students are encouraged to take risks and learn from their mistakes. Her commitment to making learning enjoyable and her appreciation for the unique talents of each student will always be remembered. We wish her all the best in her retirement. And then Mr. Bolivar has 2 staff members from the high school. Marshalltown High School announces the upcoming retirement of Teresa Perrin, who has served Marshalltown High School since 2012. Ms. Perrin initially served our students in special education before returning to MHS to teach English. We acknowledge her dedication and hard work in both departments over the years. We also celebrate her accomplishments outside the school, including her work as a published author and her commitment to farm work. We express our sincere thanks to Ms. Perrin for her time and service to Marshalltown High School and wish her her great happiness in her retirement. And then Mr. Mark Bohan. Mark joined Marshalltown in 1997. Mr. Bohan built a math and coaching career spanning several roles at Marshalltown High School over the course of 29 years. For years, he has added to our school community as a well-liked math teacher and coach, while also steering, quote-unquote, students through their first driving experiences as a driver's ed instructor. Furthermore, his legacy includes serving as a dedicated mentor to both high school students and many aspiring student teachers. We thank Mark for his long and lasting dedication to his students and colleagues.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Table again.
Looking at the interagency agreements and contracts, there's an agreement with Concord Theatricals for the production of Anastasia the Musical. Placement agreement with Western Governors University for placing WGU candidates in clinical experiences. Contract amendment number 4 for the Sexual Risk Avoidance Education Program. Contract between Vector Solutions for an annual subscription for district-wide training licenses. An amendment number 3 from the state extending the Personal Responsibility Education Program contract through July of 2028. An amendment number 5 from the state for SRAE Lenahan fiscal year 26 that extends the sexual risk avoidance education contract. An agreement with Century 21 Signature Real Estate for real estate services. An agreement with Project Resources Group Mediacom for relocation of utility lines. An agreement with Alliant Energy for easement access in relation to the Franklin Field project. And an engineering services agreement with Clapsaddle Garber for the Miller Middle School practice field improvements. Are there questions about any of those items? Hearing none. We have one open enrollment out. Randy, anything to note in bills? No. Any questions for Randy about the bills? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Wise Morales. Leah, do you need to abstain?
I do need to abstain.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries then 5-0 with one abstention. Nobody's on the pink sheet. So, Kyle, how is it possible that you were sitting low enough in a chair that I could not see you, Kyle? That was pretty good. Not as good as Mr. Bolivar's steering pun.
Yeah, I'm good.
But good nonetheless.
Okay, well, I think we got everything up there. Perfect. So it's time for us to talk a little bit about Lenahan, and what's unique this year in our presentation is that typically we have some more student-facing work or programming that we're showing you, and this year we're trying to highlight some of the work that our staff are doing to get to some exceptional student outcomes. And so for any of you who had the opportunity to come see our building a couple weeks ago, we focused on some of our small group learning, primarily focused on students with an IEP, but not exclusively. But that has been our focus this year at Lenahan in creating a special education task force to improve some outcomes for our students with an IEP. And it's not just because I had a great idea to do that, or Tanya here said, Kyle, we should do this. We have significant data that supports this decision. We have our Iowa School Performance Profile that has indicated that we are targeted in the area of students with an IEP. And been for a couple years now. And we have gone through a process of a self-assessment of our what's called our multi-tiered systems of support, or our MTSS support levels. And that has helped us identify action plans related to this. And then we have done this, all this work with our building leadership team. And one thing that we had happen a couple years ago, well, actually, this was our first time that we brought a large solution tree opportunity to our district. And this was our Soluciones conference that all of our staff in the district participated in. And one thing that came from that learning was this idea of an EL task force. We're going to get this task force together to really support positive outcomes for our students who are emerging bilingual. And our team, who are quick to jump on learning, they are really wanting to be, positive and taking this learning and moving it forward, wanted to create an EL task force. And while I was like, yes, let's do great learning for our students. However, do we need to kind of reflect and think of, if we're going to focus a task force related to a single subgroup of our students, we should probably focus on the area that we are targeted in with our Iowa School Performance Profile. And that led us to heading down the road of a special education task force. From there, we sent some staff to kind of a companion work to the All Means All thing. This is more of a workshop model with our teachers to do a couple days related to something called the book called Yes We Can, which is focused on creating positive outcomes for students with an IEP and creating a school culture that supports that. They came back, they're excited about it, and we knew we had to keep the momentum rolling. So we wanted to make sure that we got everybody involved in it, and not just our special education teachers. We needed our general education teachers, our support staff, our administration, our other interventionists. And so we can kind of go to the next slide there. And so this is the purpose of our Special Education Task Force. It's to develop an action plan to increase academic success for our students with IEPs. For the last several years, Lenahan has been identified as at risk on the school report card in the area of special education. This team will study and apply this process through work with the book Yes We Can and Solution Trees Global PD. The team will identify necessary actions to start, stop, keep doing, and improve upon in support of students with IEPs. And that was not a Kyle or Tanya crafted statement either. That was, that's the purpose of this team, and they worked to develop that. So what have they done? Last spring, they did a lot of deep learning about what that school performance profile is all about. What are the metrics? How do we find our high leverage points within that? We have done we did 2 days of learning with that team over the summer, focused on the book study and identifying the 6 core beliefs that are within that text, which, if any of you had the opportunity to see anything from the learning last week, this was a primary focus of the learning as well, those 6 core beliefs. We engaged in PD over that summer and have obviously had all our staff engage in that just a couple days ago. And now we're at the point where we're identifying our first next steps, the first next things that we're going to be doing. And they're all related to these core beliefs. So you can see those, and I can quickly go through those on the next slide. All students can learn at high levels. We have a shared collective responsibility for the learning of all students. We collaborate for all students. We have a shared culture of learning expectations, tailoring instruction for our students with special needs, and then determining criteria for assessment. Those are the 6 core beliefs within the Yes We Can, and all means all learning. And this is where we've focused our work as a special education task force right now. And we've dug into three of those core beliefs. And this next video here is going to tell us a little bit more about it. Go ahead, Tanya, if you want to preview that a little bit.
Oh, right. So we just have a video of Lisa Niehaus. She's one of our special education staff members, and she's going to share with you what we did this summer when we were going through Yes We Can, and kind of a preview of those first next steps.
I think the next one's a YouTube video, right? Although there's a screencastify in the other ones too, right? Yeah.
I love seeing myself on that screen. Thank you, Amy. So is it working?
My name is Lisa Niehaus, and I wanted to quickly show you some of the things that we've been working on at Lenahan Intermediate School. We started by meeting in August on the 12th and 13th for the goal to increase academic success for our students that are on IEPs. With the guidance of the book, Yes We Can, general and special educators collaborating in a professional learning community. Along the way, we watched snippets of videos from these authors, and we learned about 3 big ideas of a PLC: to focus on learning, promote a collaborative culture, and get results. We created an action plan, and several of the steps of the action plan are already in force. We want to increase collaborative communication during PLTs around instruction, so things that help all students be successful, such as scaffolding, using strategies that are effective, celebrating successes, unwrapping the standards to analyze what students really need to know, and pre-teaching of any concepts or vocabulary that helps students learn the content. You can see that we've changed some of our teams who is meeting together to include gen ed teachers with special education teachers so that we can collaboratively work for students to be successful in the classroom.
So that's a document that we'll bring out and look at and review tomorrow with our next Special Education Task Force meeting. Lisa talked about kind of our first next steps, and that is we want to, increase the understanding of everybody about what this learning is going to look like, to create an imperative to do the work. And I think our All Means All conference did a great job of reinforcing the learning that we're doing at Lenahan and really putting us in a position to expand that understanding to a lot of our staff. The second, collaborative communication doesn't have anything to do with Mars being a cold place or being red, but it does have. It does. We do have structures in place now that, and systems in place to have our teachers collaborate consistently and not just have it be, when we have a chance, we'll do this. We want to make sure that we have systems in place to ensure that it happens on a regular basis, and then that those conversations are data focused, not just talking about maybe why a student there are other factors why a student might not have success. We want to look at what we can control in our instruction and our support systems to ensure that they are making adequate progress. Go ahead.
On the next slide, we actually have 2 more videos from a couple of our special education teachers. This first math one is Rebecca Kerr. She's going to explain to you some of the work they've done in back mapping to use our Number Worlds materials in order to meet the needs of students with an IEP, like their specific SDI goal. This has definitely come as a result of a lot of collaboration between all the special education teachers, Lisa Pegler, myself, and gen ed teachers, to think about how to help close the gaps for those students in the areas of math.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Kerr. I am going to talk about how special education teachers are connecting the Iowa academic standards for math to the student's IEP math goals. We look at what goal the student needs. We look at what math standard is connected to the math goal the student has. We find the math standard that is connected to the student's math goal in the Number Worlds curriculum by looking at which level and unit the standard can be found. We use the coherence map to back map the standard to find the 2 previous standards that are the prerequisite skills the student needs to be able to solve the problems on the student's math goal. We find the 2 prerequisite math standards in the Number Worlds curriculum and connect them to the math standard goal the student is working towards. For instance, this student needs a 5th grade multiplication goal, 2 digits times 2 digits. When back mapped, the student needs instruction in 4th grade multiplication, 3 and 4 digits times 1 digit, and 3rd grade multiplication, multiply 1-digit whole number by multiples of 10. When I looked at the standards in Number Worlds, the student needs number sense from level E, unit 1, multiplication from level F, unit 3, and multiplication from level G, unit 2, to get the best instruction to reach their math goal. Taking time to back map the student's math goal will give them the instruction they need to fill in the gaps to reach their goal and work towards proficiency in grade level standards.
If we would just walk through those programs like that, like level E, for example, that's a whole year's worth of instruction. So that's not going to help us close gaps quickly. And so that's kind of what motivated them to do some back mapping and try to be more efficient with the students' time. The next video is focused on reading, and we are using really great reading along with some decodable readers, Amira, just a whole bunch of different resources to try to close the gaps in that area as well. This is Kim Gaskell, one of our special education teachers, sharing what some of her...
I would like to share what I'm doing during Bobcat time with my students. Students focus on improving their reading skills through a variety of structured literacy activities. Students engage with HD Word decodable books that reinforce phonics concepts while supporting the development of reading confidence and fluency. RGR Reading Playgrounds are online reading games that give students extra practice with skills we teach in small groups. They help students turn unfamiliar words into familiar words by focusing on sounds, spelling patterns, and word meanings. Teachers can also view student progress to see how they're doing. If a student is not yet demonstrating understanding of a skill, I can provide reteaching and then reassess to ensure mastery.
Is that just,
There's more, yeah.
I was going to say, I thought
Jason,
it was-
make
yeah.
This student is using Amira, an AI reading assistant that listens to students read and provides support to help them become stronger and more confident readers. Amira also allows for real-time tutoring while students are reading. HD word heart words is something this student is working on, which are high-frequency words containing irregular or non-decodable parts. Students are taught to identify the heart part of each word, the portion that must be remembered, while applying phonics skills to the remaining decodable parts.
All of that along with the really great reading.
Yeah. So we have our work cut out for us. We are going to continue to work. We know that we're just getting started with this learning, and we have, like I said, we have our next meeting is tomorrow. We're going to continue to learn the three other core beliefs that we didn't dig into this summer. We're going to implement our action steps and analyze that data to determine our progress and what our next steps are going to be. And then continue the cycle. That's our work. Any questions that we can help answer?
Are there any questions?
I explained it all.
I just wanted to make a comment. I enjoyed the visit and seeing all the different intervention groups you have in action and all the work you're doing there. So
Appreciate it.
commend you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Guess I'm sitting down here. Good evening. So I'm Justin Bolivar, high school principal, and tonight bring before you 10, if I counted those right, proposals for the 25-26 school year. Among those proposals were a welding 2 course. We have a introduction to social studies proposal, a course proposal for abnormal psych, which would be a dual credit, MCC credit type class, a introduction to computer science. So this would be new to us, going down this kind of computer science road, hopefully. And then Bobcat Cafe prep course proposal. Jules McGrew and Miss Devaney have been talking about how they could make that happen. Personal conditioning course proposal. That's going to entail a little more, like, our kids are busy at Marshalltown High School. We all know this. We've lived it. We've had kids go through the programs. So what we're trying to do is build some of the weightlifting, the conditioning stuff within the school day to make it more convenient for our parents and kiddos. Introduction to woodworking. We had something similar to that a while ago. Just wasn't popular for whatever reason, but with the new spaces, our CTE courses are just blowing up. So we found that the intro to woodworking would be a great add, something that our kids need. And then prep for high school math. That is not replacing any math classes. So that would be, some 8th graders, if they were struggling, like, it would give them extra help before hitting Algebra 1, those kinds of things. While in Algebra 1. This is not going down the path of the 1A, 1B that we had gotten rid of. And then AP Computer Science. So again, just getting kids the opportunity to get some RICs in the future. And then we have an automotive course proposal that we are looking into and would like to do that. So some basic oil changing, tire changes, replacing tires. So we have those machines in our new facility. So I'd like to put those into use. Yeah, that would, a lot of these courses, because we are so full, like the welding 2, you'd have to think of doing a welding 1 first semester, welding 2 second semester. The guys would really like to tie that into a welding 2 like college, get some college credit. And the reason they want to do that, yes, we have it at MCC. Not all our kids can get out to MCC. Some of our kids may need to be in school. I mean, you have to give up almost a half a day to get to MCC, do the classes there, get back. It's maybe not feasible for some of our students. So that just opens some opportunities for those kids. Yeah, is there more?
So the introduction to social studies, that, I mean, there's already other social studies classes that they're required to take different levels of that. So how does this play in with?
And actually, Molly Walker is here. So we are considering moving financial literacy to the senior year for students. And if we were to do that, we would need a social studies elective for our 3DE students.
Okay.
So this would be the other half of the year from world history. Come on up. She came for a reason.
Okay.
She's been waiting.
Guys, so the introduction to social
Bonus
studies
run
class.
time, right?
Yeah, it's great. The introduction to social studies class will basically be a starting point for the academic education at high school. So right now, the social studies department is seeing that when they start out in high school, they're not quite prepared for that academic writing, for looking at primary, secondary sources, and really critically thinking about social studies. So this course would allow that opportunity. I would also, the 3D program is, we're all connected. It's really beautiful. So we're hoping to connect our social studies curriculum to our ELA curriculum. Therefore, me and Katie Mummert, who is at MLA, we'd be kind of combining our curriculums. So let's say one of our ideas is I would do a unit about community across history, and the students would be examining, okay, what makes a strong community? What makes a troublesome community? And how does that impact Marshalltown? And then in her class, she would talk about narrative writing through community, describing Marshalltown, what does it mean to be a part of Marshalltown, and then we'd have a summative project in which the students would advocate for a change for Marshalltown that would be positive. So it would just make the social studies curriculum for 9th grade more holistic and focused on their skills as social studies students, preparing them for world history and American history, as well as more interconnected in their community and their daily lives.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Is
Any more questions?
there a concern about pushing financial literacy, which is a graduation requirement, to the senior year in the event a student doesn't pass it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've definitely talked about that. We've kind of kicked it around being pushed down to the junior or senior year. That we are not ready to make any sort of decision. I've talked with Molly about this. We know that our freshmen are coming in and maybe they're not quite ready to be thinking about that financial literacy side, and we think it could be more advantageous when the students are about ready to.
Yes, if I could, I'm teaching financial literacy right now, and the tricky part of a 14 or 15-year-old and talking to them about life insurance is it's not necessarily relevant to their lives. So financial literacy at that 11th and 12th grade level is when the students are more mature, their brain has developed quite a bit more at 16, 17, 18, and they're ready to use those applicable skills. So I think right now we're looking at financial literacy as like, how can we prepare our students for the real world? And I think that 11th and 12th grade step is where they're really going to get the most out of that education.
Yeah, I guess if it's 11th and 12th, I feel a lot more comfortable than it being 12th from that
Yeah, I
standpoint, because
understand.
there's also a civics test that kids are going to have to pass to graduate also.
I could add in there just the data that we have on.
You don't get to talk unless you have a microphone.
Gotcha. The data that we have on like fail rates at freshman required courses versus the senior year, that was actually one of the benefits of this proposal, was that we have an extremely low rate of students that fail government compared to their freshman required social studies. And so financial lit in particular, it seemed like more appropriate even at the senior level. I think in terms of graduation, if that's the main thing, we would have less of an issue moving it as opposed to freshman year where the failure rate's quite high.
Well, part of that is we lose kids probably starting at their sophomore year, so you've got fewer kids to pass the test the older they get. But we build a pretty strong foundation through junior achievement, which includes financial literacy at the 8th grade. And so, but I would agree that there's topics that you're covering that are less relevant as 15-year-olds than they would be probably to 17, 18-year-olds. Hopefully they'd be more relevant about that time, but they're also going to have a couple years without financial literacy per se, unless they take any elective maybe or something like that. So.
And the social studies teachers have been really proactive about putting financial literacy standards into all of our social studies classes because it's so important. And I would argue our 3DE students have it for their entire K-12 education, which is beautiful for them.
But again, the requirement's 3 years of social studies, right?
Yes.
So, okay.
What the intro to social studies or the historian's guide to the galaxy, which
Yes.
I actually prefer myself.
So prefer that one.
That counts as one of your social studies, or is that?
It replaces.
It replaces something, right?
It would be an elective. Yeah. It would not be a part of the 3 social studies required classes. It would be an elective. And that is specifically for 3D students because 3D students have to have all 4 core classes in 3DE. Therefore, other freshmen can only take world history for a semester. However, my students have to take social studies for the whole year. So this introduction to social studies class is kind of designed to both ensure that the 3D students are having that full year of social studies, as well as it's really fruitful to what 3D is trying to get at, which is community involvement and preparing them for the real world.
Okay.
So if we were to not move financial literacy, we would not have a need for intro to social studies. Does that make sense? The move of financial literacy to junior or senior year creates the void for Molly because she needs to have 3DE freshmen all year. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
If I can pivot to math, this new prep for high school math class, is that intended to be a math credit or an elective credit as you play that out?
It is an elective. So students would take it alongside algebra, and they would earn an elective credit for essentially working on pre-algebraic skills to make them more ready for the Algebra 1 course that they're taking at their freshman year. So every single student will be in Algebra 1 their freshman year.
So they'd take intro first semester and algebra 1 second, or they'd take them year-round, both of them?
It's a semester elective, so they would take, and we haven't really talked about whether or not they could repeat it for the second semester, but they would be pushed into this elective while they're taking Algebra 1.
So double dipping for that semester?
Yeah, so if you're in a block schedule, you have math 3 times a week. This would make sure that you're having math daily.
And then would this be more like where teachers at the 8th grade level would be recommending students for this versus something that a student would just elect to.
Correct. Yeah, so students wouldn't be enrolling, we would be using data to drive who is allowed to take this course.
Excellent.
Other questions?
I think it's just
It's just on as a discussion item. It's not an action item.
I'll come back at the December 15th meeting.
Yep.
Right, and I guess the other thing to note is like, all you're asking for is approval of these courses, right? I mean, we have nothing to do with the course schedule or when things get, right, that's not our problem. That's somebody else's problem.
And it does get,
to figure out the calendar and the schedule.
It does get very, very tricky with our master schedule. It is a beast. And nothing here, just so you're all aware, it does not like take away, this isn't replacing anything from good. For good. The biggest thing is it could be, like just use welding for an example. Like maybe welding 1 is semester 1, semester 2, it cuts down maybe to a couple offerings of that and then a couple offerings of welding 2 to give those students an opportunity. So we're trying to give our students, we talk about giving our students opportunity, trying to shake things up a little bit. So we're trying to make some more interest in some of these classes. The math one isn't going to create a lot of interest, but it certainly will help. I mean, it can be a help for our students that struggle with that. So.
Good support.
Yeah.
Seems like
absolutely right. Support.
Whether it generates interest or not, it fills a big need, I think. So
would agree, which is why we have it up there.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
all.
you.
Well, we're blessed to have Senator Warmy and Representative Blum here, so come on down.
Do the easy stuff, not figure all that out.
Well, as the board is aware, each year about this time, we invite for our local legislators to come talk to us about their hopes and dreams for the upcoming legislative session, and for us to share and or talk a little bit about what our board legislative priorities are. So I'll open it up to you guys to start.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Appreciate it. Again, Representative Blum, Senator Warmy. My mom is a teacher here at Marshalltown, and I went through Marshalltown, especially in high school, as well as doing dual enrolled classes here. So really appreciate the investment and some of the teachers who were still around, and some of I just got to go to one's retirement party, and we had a good time and remembered old times. And she reminded me of a few assignments that were turned in late. So it was a good time. But I really appreciate the continued investment of the staff and the board and the community here into the school district. Dreams and goals for this coming session is to continue to advocating for our students, our parents, and our educators. As a union member of SMART at Raymond, known as Raymond Donco up in Albion, it's really important to continue to invest in the career and technical education. It was great to go on the tour and see the investment that this board has made into the facilities at Marshalltown High School and getting kids interested in the career paths. It's one thing to be able to deliver the learning objectives, but to get kids excited about the education is also really important, and so I appreciate that investment. And I'll be looking from my role as an appropriations committee member to be able to make targeted investments that might be applicable to programs and to continue to support them here at Marshalltown. Then just kind of general big picture things, we're continuing to look at ways to address the affordability crisis. Iowa is doing better than the national average. We're still at about 3 times median household income for home prices, but that is continuing to be an issue. So we're concerned about the affordability of working families being able to stay in our communities and being able to invest and grow here. And additionally, I wanted to follow up on the TPRA program. That was a targeted investment with some of the COVID-19 funds for the teacher shortage, and trying to find ways to focus that in on being specifically a teacher registered apprenticeship. Currently, it's allowable with the school board's funds to do that, but trying to find new ways to bring that back if funds are available, to specifically elevate paras into an lifelong career education. And that's what I got for hopes and dreams for this session. Appreciate it.
Great. Thanks for having me. Good to see you all. We know a lot more heading back down for our second session than we did when we talked to you a year ago. So that's great. Certainly it was a big learning experience. I think there are a lot of positive things going on in education in Iowa, and I'm hoping to continue amplifying those things. I see a lot of those successes here at this district, and I think we can get caught up in some of the debates and press cycles and end up with a more negative discussion about what's going on in schools than I would like to see, because I think primarily things are positive. So some of the successes that we're seeing, a big one is in work-based learning, where Iowa is leading, really ahead of what a lot of other states are doing, and Marshalltown even leading within Iowa. So it was exciting to have the Elevate Iowa Manufacturing Tour make a stop here at the schools. So in the 24-25 school year, 45% of all seniors in Iowa had attained a work-based learning experience. We've had a 76% rate of increase over 2 years, so very targeted. Again, I think you all really were leaders in that space and probably doing that sooner than the rest of Iowa, but that's a great thing to be adding. And so as part of that, we're supporting a strong CTE educator pipeline and thinking about things we can do at a state level that support this. Another success area in literacy and science. So the early literacy legislation that went in 2 years ago, if we look at that group of 3rd to 4th grade students, they had an 11% increase then from 3rd to 4th grade. We've also seen an 11% increase in literacy for 8th grade. Since 2019, we're seeing science improvements as well. So we're anxious to see with the math enhancements that were put into place next year, hoping to see math results statewide improve as well. I know you all have targeted things you would do here, but looking statewide, wanting to make sure we're modernizing our standards. The social studies standards are under review right now. Couple other successes or excitement things that we want to be amplifying. The chronic absenteeism. You guys had to work through some of the bumps of the first year of that, where there were pieces. We gathered input from you all. We put those changes in last year, but Iowa's down to 15.8%. That was a 6-point drop year over year, and the largest of any state in the U.S. who has announced their year over year change yet. No state in the country has returned to pre-COVID levels. So this is a struggle for everybody, but you guys know getting kids into the classroom is huge. So we'll continue to stay in touch. I've had some discussion with Dr. Schutte and his staff of, are there other tweaks that we need? But overall, as a program, we're having dramatic success that other states are looking to. So to be at 15.8 when a couple years ago, right after COVID, we were at more like 25.6, the year after COVID. So huge improvement of kids being in the classroom. And you all know the school cell phone policy was my favorite and what I talked about everywhere we went. But I am happy to report that we've really had overall very positive feedback from students, from pediatricians, from administrators, from teachers. So I think change is always scary, but it's great to see that that is something that has had a really positive impact. One of my favorite stories from within the district, one of the high schools, they had more high schoolers than ever signing up to serve as mentors for elementary school students, because they used to be on their phones in study hall, and now instead they're mentoring elementary school kids during study hall, helping them read, playing Uno, whatever that would be. And that's, data driven to be successful and help those at-risk kids that are identified to have mentors. And so those are just some of the extra benefits that we get from a policy like that. So thinking about this year, I'm glad that you mentioned TPRA. That was on my radar as well. So certainly you had great success there. I've had conversations with Director Snow and today with Chairman Evans for the Senate Education Committee. He is in support of trying to see that continue. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but I want to keep getting the success stories from you all and trying to amplify that because it seems like it was really successful here and we'd like to keep that going. I am going to be chair for the Health and Human Services Committee this session. And there is, I think, a lot of overlap in what we do in HHS in terms of having kids and families ready to participate actively in what you're doing in the school district. So, for example, from a mental health perspective, met with Classroom Clinic is, one of a number of resources, and I'm not sure if you're using that one here yet, but that's, a partnership with the ASO where the ASO will pay for you to have a subscription to do telehealth, mental health services for students, and that's now available for every school district in Iowa if they choose to participate in that through the behavioral health district. We'll be doing a lot of focus in HHS on our healthcare workforce, so we went and met with MCC already, meeting with other community colleges and DMU and University of Iowa, just making sure that we, while we love elevating the trades, and we know that that's a great fit for a lot of students. We also have a lot of population that's going to need healthcare providers in the state, so want to make sure we're still exposing and incenting kids to move into healthcare careers, and then licensing some of those mid-level careers that maybe don't take the 12, 15 years of school investment, but they can maybe take that front line, mid-level health providers. We expect feedback from University of Iowa on the cancer report that we funded last year. So unfortunately, Iowa over-indexes in cancer rate, and so we're digging in to understand the cancers that are driving that and things we can do from an education and policy perspective. And then I'll be focusing specifically on youth and families, whether that's changes in foster care, simplifying the training process for foster care families, things like that that just help us make sure kids are supported and ready to come and learn.
Thank you.
Questions?
Well, I'll just open up, and I think we have them here before you too. Our priorities really didn't change a whole lot. Maybe
Okay.
the order of them did from what they were a year ago. Obviously, state supplemental aid is the big one. And I can say, because I've been doing this for 41 years now, that the last couple decades have been the lowest increases collectively that we've seen, and I believe that because of that is why we have to do that right sizing, like you saw 2 years ago with the beginning teacher pay, and it's like playing catch up just to keep us at average, in the country for the teacher pay. So I also know that the state is probably looking at a challenging budget year, which doesn't bode well for having better than normal, what's the new normal for education increases. But I think that piece is just critically important because 80% of our funds go to teacher salaries and benefits. And if we can't be competitive, it just makes us that much harder for us to get to fill the positions. I will say that for the first time in probably 4 years, and probably since I've been here for 10, we've had the highest fill rate for teachers as well as support staff. I think part of that is because we've made huge strides in the past decade with our hourly staff. We moved towards the $15 minimum before that became a thing with the state. Probably the year before, which has been beneficial, and also made significant increases a number of years ago with health insurance in that arena too. I think with the teachers, especially in the hard to fill positions, which seems to be a higher percentage all the time of all the available positions, we've been very creative in trying to figure out the right recipe of incentives to put us in a more competitive state, but those generally come from our general fund. So I think if greater flexibility in some of those other funds can be, I know that there's been efforts along those lines which haven't materialized, but if something other than the general fund could be used in order to help us pay for some of those incentives, that would help ease some pressure off the general fund and yet let us continue to be in a competitive position. I think there's a general belief that property tax reform is again going to be maybe even bigger than it was a year ago to make something happen there. And our concern there will be if any of the levies go away that have helped support our efforts as a school and or community. And then also, what does that mean for our overall, local control of tax rates as it applies to just funding education in general? And I would say over the years, it's been a hard thing for people to wrap their heads around in terms of what is this really going to mean if it happens as far as education funding. So transparency and clarity as the conversations are being had so that, obviously I'm most interested in what does it mean for us as a school district as some of these changes that are being proposed takes place. Mental health is close to our heart. We've been doing a lot of work in that arena for quite some time. And of course, the latest challenge post-COVID has been just the lack of availability of providers. I mean, I would have said 4 or 5 years ago that we probably were a model district in terms of the support at a tier 3, 2, or 1 level from everything from our SEL curriculum, behavioral health efforts, and then partnering with local agencies, but those have diminished, as well as even with the few providers that we still have, the amount of support has gone down considerably just due to lack of people power. And so because of that, we are trying to do more with things like virtual, connecting and that sort of thing, not because we still think the face-to-face is the best case scenario, but it's better than nothing.
Agreed.
Trying to do that. And I would say even in the most significant cases where kids might need short-term or longer-term care, residential, I mean, we're having to send kids to the edges of the state in order to, not we, but, if it's decided that that's the kind of help they need, we're lucky if they can keep them in state. And if they are in state, it's usually on the eastern border or the western border somewhere for those types of things. Something that moved up a little bit higher this year was preschool. Particularly, I mean, it seems like the last couple legislative sessions, there's been a lot of interest and discussion around the topic of preschool and whether we can move from a half-day 4-year-old preschool, voluntary 4-year-old program to more of a full-day program. The kids who are going to most benefit from that opportunity will be kids of low-income families, which generally are also a pocket of kids that probably are coming into school less ready to learn, when they enter kindergarten and that sort of thing. I think for our district, it would be a game changer if we had that available, because I think vast majority of the families would take advantage of that. And for those that don't or don't want it, you wouldn't have to do it. You could do the half-day. Kindergarten rolled out the same way. When I first started in education, kindergarten was a half-day program. And then the opportunity to move it to full-day programming was there. Well, some districts, like right now, we don't have the capacity building-wise to accommodate full-day preschool. We'd figure it out if it happened because it's that important to us, to have that opportunity for our kids and families. So that continues to be a big deal here. I think in some of the smaller districts around the state, and this is why it becomes a heavier lift, or the more affluent districts in the state, they're finding ways to provide their kids with full-day experiences, whether the school offers it or not, or they're caught up in, we don't have space for this program. But again, if it's optional, I believe what will happen, as happened with kindergarten, is some districts won't choose to do it initially, but after it gets some momentum in 3 or 4 years, everybody will be doing it because they'll see the value in that. And then lastly, that both of you hit on the teacher recruitment and licensure, especially as it relates to the TPRA program. Dr. Smith worked really hard at recruiting and selling the program opportunity that we had. I think we've had one of the more successful parent-to-teacher programs in the state, not only in terms of number of active participants in it, but also establishing a cohort of people that are working through that program that are more representative of the populace that we serve. Because I think for a lot of those people, finances got in the way, life got in the way. They always wanted to go down the road of getting a BA degree, but couldn't or didn't because of different circumstances. This provided a golden opportunity for them to do it. The unfortunate part is it was kind of a 1 year or year and a half hit, maybe 2 years, and then the funding's gone. So we had a number of number of our employees that were still in the program, and we chose, in order to finish, was to figure out a way how to use our funds to help support them finish and, program otherwise the state was covering. And but I think that is going to help us out for the next couple of years as more and more of those people graduate with their teaching degrees. They want to stay here and work here, which is phenomenal. It took a little bit longer to get off the ground, but we also had tremendous turnout of students wanting to be paras who found time in their schedules to help support. And in many cases, those kids, through those experiences, decided education is something they seriously want to consider, which can also ultimately down the road help this talent pipeline issue that we have. But it was a great program. It was just unfortunate that the funding was, and I totally understand why and how that happened, to where it was a short-term fix. But with the results we saw, we were hopeful that that in some ways, somehow, that the state would recognize the positive difference that it has made in cutting, I believe, for us it certainly has, but in cutting the unfilled vacancies. And, that's going to have to continue, or we're going to be, because we're still facing some of the same challenges in getting people to go into education. Thinking there's one other thing I wanted to say. As far as the chronic absenteeism, I think our drop was about 10% last year. But that too, chronic absenteeism hasn't been created due to lack of effort on schools' parts. We had to commit to spending more money in targeted positions to help us with engaging and communicating with families beyond, what the school personnel could do. So that was an additional cost. I don't know if I want to call it an unfunded mandate, but we knew that to move the bar, that needed to happen, that we needed someone devoted to overseeing our district efforts and kind of coordinating those efforts. I would say the only tweak that I'm aware of, unless Anel or Dr. Smith have others, is that it still seems odd to me that college visits don't count as an excused absence for kids. It seems counterproductive to, we're trying to prepare these kids for career readiness, which in many cases involves some sort of post-secondary education, which has been a huge priority, whether it be a vocational, certification or a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree. And so when kids and families are wanting to visit different places that provide those things, it does not count as an excused absence currently. And I know that one of the responses that I got when I shared that concern was, well, they can go on weekends. Well, sometimes that can happen, but I know for my kids, many years ago when they were entertaining schools, they went to the special events that the schools would host, which was always when you were going to see your best. If they were serious about really wanting to go there, we would send them on another occasion that was just a normal day, because depending on where you're going, you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars a year potentially of spending. And so you want to make sure that where your child goes or where you send your child is a good fit, so that money's not wasted. And so I really think that needs to be rethought in terms of the classification of that. I don't know if there's anything that others want to add or.
Yeah, I'll note on the House side, Representative Wheeler is our chair for education, and he was open to that when I was reaching out to him from the feedback last year.
Questions, comments from anybody?
Well, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come this evening, and I think, normally we would have that gathering with the Marshall County schools, and I don't think that's happening this year, so it was especially important that we were able to have you come today.
I do have one question. Dr. Schutte kind of alluded to the property tax, to property taxes.
Property tax reform.
There you go. Can you guys give us any insight into what might be coming down the pipeline towards us here?
So I can confirm that it is a high priority again, probably even more so, and that we should see policy proposals sooner in the session, whereas last time we kind of walked in expecting it and then it was a while before anybody saw it. So I know Senator Dawson on Senate Ways and Means has said he's hoping to drop something in the first couple weeks. Then the governor obviously got involved and did her listening sessions around the state. We have not seen her policy proposal yet. So I don't have details of what it will be. I know that we will be looking at it and that it's really hard to model what the impacts will be of a lot of it. And I think that's why it continues to not get done. I suspect we'll start with some full-scale redesign type ideas to poke holes in again. I personally think it'd be more realistic at this point to try to take some steps over time, encourage sharing agreements, take away the penalty for new growth areas within cities that right now aren't part of the revenue cap that's in place. So look for things that we could kind of try piece by piece. Certainly, I know I hear a lot, I imagine you hear a lot from people who feel they're being taxed out of their homes, right? Just the challenge of fixed income folks with the high bills for property tax and insurance. And so I agree with you from a local control perspective, really. I mean, those funds aren't coming to the state, right? We're not doing anything with them. We would love for that to be handled locally, but there's enough Iowans speaking to their state government that we're all trying to dig in and see what we could do to improve it. So I don't know if you've seen something else, but I know I haven't seen specifically what the policy ideas will be, just that it should come sooner.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that. I appreciate the desire for clarity. I do think when we start session on January 12th, I do expect to see study bills dropping. Especially, I would expect in that first week, the governor's State of the State address should come forward with a more specific policy proposal. I'm hoping this year. I appreciate in any organization, there's always people in the basement who do most of the work. The Capitol is the same way. We have a legislative services agency, and just because There's so many layers of government from school boards, counties, cities, and townships that are affected by proposals. We have to go through and do full revenue statements on how it would affect each one. And so it became much more complicated than some of the simpler bills that I file simple bills and they get back really fast. But I know there was some frustration with it taking many months. But we hope to get clarity both on the proposals, but also on the impacts that it might have to those local taxing entities that are established by the state. So mid-January is the answer. Thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any other things that you're hearing about that might come forward in the governor's address that we're unaware of?
We were new this last year, learned a lot, also great experiences bringing into the job. But I heard from others that definitely some of the reforms were difficult. But I appreciate the teachers in the district rolling with it and continuing to serve the kids to the best of their ability. And I appreciate them doing that. Anything from the student representatives? You guys good? Yeah. Okay, appreciate you guys hanging in with us.
Quite entertaining.
I wanted to ask about the implementation on civics education. I know we've worked at the collegiate level with the Center for Civic Education. There were many proposals about the level of testing and the passing grade that was needed on the civics exam. Has that been a challenge for the district to implement? Have you found it?
Well, it hasn't started yet. We had hoped to be one of the pilot districts. I had put in for us to be, because I think it'll be more so a challenge for some of our kids just due to the sheer language barriers and everything else, but we weren't chosen, unfortunately, because I think that would have been a good test, no pun intended, to see, what it is going to take. Kind of like, I don't know if you were here early enough to hear the discussion on the course proposals, but one of the proposals was to move financial literacy, which we've kept as a graduation requirement because it was put in for the right reasons, but the idea was to move it from freshman year to senior year, and my concern is, well, what if they don't pass, in their senior year? They have government that they generally take as juniors, and of course could retake if they needed to, if they don't pass that, because that's a graduation requirement. We don't know what we don't know about what that's going to look or feel like, but we're obviously going to do what we need to do to help provide our kids the support they're going to need in order to successfully pass that. Kind of an interesting caveat, we, for maybe the third time in the 10 years I've been here, had an enrollment decline this past year, as equivalent certified enrollment of about 85 kids. 50 of those were less open enrolled out, which was a good thing. But the other 35 are just, we had more students graduating than we have kids coming in, essentially. And I think part of it too is our district, because of the nature of the work in Marshalltown, and especially like the meatpacking, which has a high turnover rate. I think we have one of the best in the country, but it's still a high turnover rate of 30% or so. I think I'm guessing that we inherited fewer families, particularly newcomers this past year due to the political climate and everything, which probably impacted that. And so there's a lot of good things happening in Marshtown that I think, in addition to the schools, that provides a lot of reason for families to want to come here. If there's housing availability, there's definitely has been and will be even more jobs in the future. But I think some of those challenges have led to some challenges for us financially too, because our budget really relies on two primary things: student enrollment and state supplemental aid. I mean, those two things are what drives everything. And so it could be a bit of a tough year with a little, a reduction in student enrollment, even though we'll be on the budget guarantees for a year. And then if we have low state supplemental aid, it's going to be a bit of a challenge this year. But the only other 2 years where we had that kind of student loss was the year of the tornado and the year of the derecho. So it was kind of an unusual circumstance, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Good luck.
Normally, we would like to stay for the rest of the meeting. Today, we have the Farm Bureau Board for the county afterwards. So we'll have to run, but we appreciate it.
Yeah,
and don't
thank you.
hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Girls, you're up.
It starts with.
Mine are first, so I'll go first. Okay, so Mr. Goings organized a hospitality and careers field trip. So students who are interested in culinary, event planning, or other hospitality-related careers have the opportunity to tour the Iowa Event Center and the Culinary Institute and Bistro at DMAC tomorrow. And just a little update on me and Amade's club. So far we've had 24 amazing people sign up using our QR code from the posters that we hung up around school. And we plan to have our first meeting like this week. Maybe this week.
Things have been moving.
Are those in person or virtual, or how are you doing those meetings?
In person.
It's in person.
In person?
Yes. So tomorrow there will be a Unity Point healthcare event. Students will be dismissed via intercom at 8:30 a.m. and will be returning at 1:15. Lunch will be given there. I will be going on this trip. I'm excited. I want to be a doctor, and it's a great opportunity for those interested in healthcare to get a feel for the field and possibly find out what kind of field they want to go into. I'm hoping to possibly explore the NICU, pediatric, psychiatry, anesthesiology units, because those are what I'm interested in personally, so I'm excited for that. There are Saturday school dates for students who need to catch up. That one passed on November 22nd, but there's December 13th and January 10th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. In the MHS Design and Foods hallway. And there will be teachers there for math, English, and sciences and social studies. And breakfast will be provided as usual. Sorry.
How do you had the culinary event where people were able to go, and then the Unity Point. How do you guys find out about those? Are those on the announcements?
Student Square. They send you out emails, from your Zello. They see what you're interested in, and they send you out these emails. So
Okay.
yeah.
So it's kind of targeted outreach.
Yeah, it is.
and-
They'll say it over the intercom at max volume, and they're like, "We're doing this next week," and you're like, "Perfect." Okay, we have MHS athletics updates. So boys wrestling has a duel against Ames this Thursday. I know me and Liz are very excited about that. We're fired up for that meet. Girls wrestling, I'm pretty sure they're also going to be at Ames as well, but they're going to be going. Oh, what day is it?
So they're going to Colfax Mingo on Tuesday.
Tuesday. That's
Yep.
what it was. I forgot to put it on
Tomorrow.
there. But they're going tomorrow to Colfax Mingo to go against Colfax and then Grinnell, which I think our girls are going to crush it. Girls bowling has a meet today against Fort Dodge. It started at 3 o'clock. Haven't heard a thing yet, but hopefully they did good. Boys basketball has a game tomorrow against Des Moines Lincoln at Des Moines Lincoln. Cheerleaders would not be going because we've had our rough patch with Des Moines Lincoln. They're kind of scary. Yeah.
What happened?
Oh, they're mean. State dance and color guard. They are. It's horrible.
I didn't do it this year.
State dance and color guard is going to be at the Hy-Vee Hall in Des Moines on Wednesday. And I'm pretty sure there's also going to be like a multiple other days after that. Thursday, maybe going into Friday, depending on how our girls do. I'm super excited to see what dances the girls have brought up and choreography. It's very fun to watch. My sister was in dance. I enjoyed it a lot. And our cheerleading season is finally getting started after a long football season. Obviously, Honor Squad kind of took the cake. Honor Squad fell on Friday, right before Thanksgiving, so the 21st. It consisted of me, Adrian, Ellie. We went to Ames on the 16th, which would have been a Sunday, to learn all the material within, I want to say a 6-hour span, which was a lot to pack in. But we got it down. That next Thursday, we went on the 20th, and we practiced in a huge gym in Cedar Falls, doing a full run-through of all the stunts and everything. It was crazy in there, super loud. And then finally, on the 21st, we had our actual performance during the halftimes of the games, and it was super-duper fun. So many people, but I'm used to it at this point with being a cheerleader and being in our community. It was a super fun experience meeting new people and just having fun with some of my very best friends. And again, if anybody listening, and maybe if we have like an adult cheer camp, you guys can go. But yes, I think it's a very fun experience to have after having 4 years under my belt of cheerleading.
There's boys swimming on Thursday too.
Oh, there's boys
it's
swimming?
home.
Varsity Bound has led me the wrong way. Dang it. But yes. Now I have to look at Varsity Bound again.
Who's it with? I think it's Lincoln. Is it Lincoln? I think here.
We just love being against Lincoln this week.
Well, they tend to try to do that. I think it's here.
Yeah. Girls basketball also plays at Lincoln on,
Swimming.
Oh, yes. Everybody's going to Lincoln.
so, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things aren't popping up on Varsity Bound. I
Roosevelt.
Look at
It's Roosevelt. Roosevelt.
The Unity Point Healthcare, is that here in town?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to tell about the 3 ranked wrestlers for boys?
Oh my gosh. Wait, who all are the...
Not that I care about.
Maybe if you aren't sure who they are, Liz could help.
I can help.
Hey, Liz, do you want to...
So we have number 12, Dalton Sedenchek, at 190. Dylan Million, not Dylan, Nicholas Million, yes, at 106, I think.
Yeah,
He's number 10. And then Nick Wise is number 2 at 144. So we have 3 ranked wrestlers. Yay.
Cross has already said that there's a very, very high chance that a lot of these boys this year are going to be going to state.
Yes,
Taking on a
our
lot of
district
them.
looks very good.
Yes.
So, cancel schools, Dr. Schutte.
Well, half
And
the season's over if you beat Ames. So.
I know, and then we'll cancel when swimming does well too. And girls basketball.
Okay. Thank you, girls.
On that note.
Thank you.
You can stay there if you want to
We probably could.
for the book study.
I'll grab my book.
So chapter 2 is on creativity. Hopefully people found it as interesting as I did. What stood out to you, Anel? Amy, I was thinking the other day, we need to figure out how to get a mic at each of those tables.
Grab one of theirs and share it if we want.
I thought it was interesting that they said that creativity was, you have it when you're younger, but then you lose it as you get older because we teach people not to be creative.
We teach it out of them.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
One of the other things I thought was really interesting that you don't really think about is when they were talking about the spoons, creativity is almost wholly dependent on knowledge and experience. You think creativity is just this wild thing that's out there and you're grabbing concepts from thin air, but it has to be based on something that you know and understand. And so that was a different way to think about it for me.
And I think towards the end of the chapter, it talked about how, it's so different today or it can be so different today for kids versus like when we were growing up. Where toys are a lot of times one-dimensional or don't maybe lend themselves to creativity, or maybe computer games are kind of that way too, versus things like what I would call project-based learning, where you just have normal everyday things and try to figure out how to have fun with those things, building forts, tree houses, the types of things that back in the day were kind of popular. The other thing that stuck out was how fast-paced life has become, especially for young kids, like if they're in youth sports and stuff like that. How do you make sure that you're devoting time to, number one, giving them a break, because they talked about how important it is just to kind of, relax and give your mind an opportunity to kind of wander and think about things. But it is such a fast-paced life that it would be easy to not be thoughtful about providing well-rounded experiences for kids that allows them to develop their creativity. The floor is open to you guys too. You all have books.
Interesting where, I can't remember if it was at the beginning or the end of it, where they talked about being bored, that boredom can be a gift, and that we're kind of in a different world now where we're taught to not be bored, or not to allow ourselves to be bored. You get it into an elevator, you got your phone, this creation of the smartphone has created, or taken away the opportunity to be bored, which also sparks creativity.
I was interested with the statistics related to how creativity decreases as you get older, and that's probably that we unlearn how to be creative.
But it also talked about how simple statements like just saying "I wonder" to kids and adults can spark that creativity piece. They mentioned a lot about certain experiments they did with students and teachers with a control group and a non-control group. And in one group, they talked about how they just simply said, "Oh, I wonder what would happen if a skittle in the water versus whatever else," and just walked away and didn't do that with the other group. And the other group just followed to a T what they were supposed to do. They were done, and they just kind of stopped working and being creative or facilitated. Just with that one, I wonder, continued, and they moved on to oh, and I wonder this, and I wonder about that. So I've been doing that at home a lot. So I've been doing it with the kids. It's like, oh, I wonder what happened, and then just walk away from it.
I really related to the part in the book where it said creativity and the arts he wrote are not a way to make a living, and I think back on my life that was the time when I decided creativity wasn't worth it and that I needed to go get a major in college that was going to make me money. And I even liked the connection to the previous chapter where it was talking about curiosity and like adults showing their kids that they're still learning. And I guess I really tried, like this weekend, like Annelle said, to try things like bake bread. I don't bake bread. And I tried with my kids and just let them see me fail. And so it is a really good book because it's making my wheels turn about how just the tiny little things, like I wonder, can just change and just really give the message of like you don't just have to produce and make money. You can find a lot of joy and creativity in arts.
A lot of the reading reminded me of a saying of art professor would tell us time and time again throughout our entire college career, which was look, ruminate, emulate, create. And so a lot of this portion of the book connected me with that saying, particularly with the ruminate, just ruminate about things, think about, wonder, before you go and do, just think and kind of sit within that silence.
Anything stick out to you girls?
There was one big thing. It's that being a child, you really need to be open to open-mindedness, along with the fact that adults in the classroom and at home, sometimes when kids ask why, or they wonder, or they're like, what is this? How does this work? The parents just kind of give the answer and just go about their day. Like, they don't really explain further. They don't give like an open-ended question being like, well, like this crayon could be used this way or that way, or it's not just like color on paper. Like you could melt it down and make more crayons. Just like kids have to be open-minded to, again, be able to share their creativity throughout their entire life, to be able to do amazing things. And without creativity in our life, you kind of like dull, very dull, I feel. And I feel like a lot of teachers nowadays, they kind of, like they had that open childhood where they were able to like be bored. Like Shauna said back there, they were able to be bored and it led them to great things, but being in a certain society where it's like, maybe you shouldn't wonder, it kind of dulls it out and it's kind of drug us through that too in our schooling. If that made any sense, I hope it did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I feel like I was just like chattering. Sorry.
Anything else from anyone?
I just wanted to say I thought of this chapter last night. I don't know if anyone else happened to watch 60 Minutes last night, the news documentary. There was 2 features on there that were of interest to our family. Some 18-year-old soccer player in Spain. And then the one I wanted to watch, which was it's called the iGEM program, which is a science-based program. It starts in the state of Georgia. It was a group of high school kids that isolated the protein that creates or contributes to Lyme disease. And the creativity that it takes the creativity it takes to do that, and for high school students to accomplish that, I think is just incredible.
I had football on and then 60 Minutes turned on. That was incredible.
Yeah, I had a 9-year-old watching 60 Minutes last night, which was kind of cool, but yeah.
And then I went back to football.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, chapter 3 for next time.
I like these at the end of each chapter that kind of say, here's what you could do. Like how to take this home with you. Hi guys. All right.
Welcome to our at-risk dropout presentation that we will have for you tonight. I think you all know who I am, and this is...
Hi, Jordan Terry.
We have a pretty quick slideshow for you. Just wanted to share what the at-risk looks like in our district and the funding that we are receiving from the state and how we are using it to help prevent some of these to help prevent dropout and so on and so forth. So in this first slide, it just defines what at-risk means. It really goes down to the categories of homeless children and youth, dropouts, returning dropouts, and potential dropouts. So, and that's based on, of course, the definition of the Iowa Code. So. Some of the criteria that we use to identify our students here in Marshalltown are listed there, which has to go with attendance, of course, chronic absenteeism, truancy, low achievement as far as grades, district and state testing or assessments, homelessness, returning dropout students, and that's grades 7th through 12th that we're considering. Just a few details as far as the actual data that we have for our school district is right there listed. Our current to date is about 18.2%. That does not include our current kindergarteners that we haven't identified quite yet, and any others that may appear as far as dropout, things like that. So we won't have a complete number for this school year until the end of the year, of course, and that you can compare that to what we had last year for the 24-25 school year. We were around 21%. So for identifying, we use, you can't really see the graph. It is color coded. This is just an example of, because this is really a screenshot from 2023, but we use the early warning dashboard as a way to help us identify some students. Along with our Infinite Campus, we have a disconnect tab in there as well that we also use along with our homelessness McKinney-Vento data that we house. We also use that. So we use a variety of measures to be able to identify our at-risk students within our school district.
I'm going to jump in and help these guys out on this slide here. So this, as you can see, I'll just take over now. It's fine. 'Cause this is normally my side that I update for these guys. But the application for that risk, there's supplemental spending authority that you can request for each year for this. So our at risk is a combination of state aid and property taxes. So what you see on this slide here is the historical state aid portion that you're required to request for each year. The 26-27 application is not open in the DE portal yet, so I didn't have the information last week when we were working on this presentation. We still don't have that information. I am able to estimate and calculate it, so the estimated fiscal year 27 spending authority would be roughly 2.1 million. When then you factor in the property taxes, which is usually about another $1 million. On top of that, estimated budget for fiscal year 27 would be $3 million in total. At the December 15th meeting, we'll come back and request authorization from the board for this spending authority piece, which again, we'll see how good my estimates are when the application comes out, I guess, hopefully next week. So we'll see what that is, and then that'll feed into our budget for next year pending board approval. But we'll request that spending authority piece to be approved along with the overall general at-risk plan, because that does have to be approved as well, which is what Anel and Jordan are reviewing tonight. So I will shut up now and hand the floor back over to you two. So.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was going to say.
I knew, word for word. It's like,
yes.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
how do we use this funding? So we just outlined a few of the areas that or the majority actually, not the few, but how we use this funding that Randy so eloquently shared with you. And so you can see there, it's funding our school resource specialists, our MLA and peer programs, juvenile court liaison that is housed at the high school, and math and literacy interventionist, And then other resources like Edmentum that we use heavily at MLA and also are venturing out into using it at MHS through the peer program, and the IJAC services that we have currently. So, and then Jordan will start digging into MLA specifically, since that's one of the biggest areas that we house and service our students with that risk.
So MLA is an alternative education program that is an extension of the high school. So it serves students 9th through 12th grade. Different things that we provide at MLA, as said up here, we have flexible scheduling, personalized learning, and a relationship-centered environment. So we can continue to the next one. So looking at some of our numbers in the average of daily attendance. So looking at last year, the average attendance between 9, and I want to say the date specifically in here, this is not for the school year, that is explained in the next slide as well. So this was taken first day of school, 2024 to 11/21. And that average was 69.84%. And what we have this school year is the daily average is 81.51%. So this is an increase in 11.67% in students coming to school. So the next.
Could I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Is the enrollment at MLA roughly the same as it was last year, or is it higher or lower? Do you know that?
So it's slightly lower with some grads that we have.
Okay.
Yep.
So roughly the same. Mm-hmm. Okay. Got it.
This is the slide. I had a few questions. I put it in the graph of this is the same dates of beginning of the school year to 11/21. So this is, again, number of grads at the bottom does not mean for the school year because there were students who graduated. So when looking at credit attainment, at this time, and again, during those dates, there were 95 credits earned. And right now, we are at 157.5 credits earned. Students are very proud, and I can talk a little bit in detail of what that looks like when they earn a credit. They have a slip, they come and sign it, and I have a button. And if they will do a dance party with me, as some of them will, sometimes with my office door shut, and some will do it out in the open. But we have some fun celebrations that happen every time a credit is earned at MLA. So, yeah. That's fun. Then what we have so far, so again, this date is not total grads. This is just where it was at these specific date and times. We have 5 that are graduating and projected of 9 at semester 1. That will be done and work on where they're going next. So some things that staff, myself, and students believe have helped and supported some of the data reflected is we have advisory support. So each teacher at MLA is assigned to a teacher or assigned to a student. That student, upon arrival based on their schedule, check in with that teacher. They do a quick check-in of how things are going, and then they set academic goals for the day. Those academic goals are then, some students have a checkout system, and some students check in the following day. Student and staff relationships, ownership and pride. As you will come and tour, there's been some changes to MLA, and students are taking some ownership in some things they're creating for MLA. Engagement expectations, goal setting, that's talked about with the advisory support. Behavior expectations, flexible schedules. Kind of talked already about the reinforcement, and when credit is attained or success is happening at MLA. We have elective avenue, so we have redesigned the hallway downstairs at MLA that is now for all elective or more hands-on learning. So it's an entire hallway that, again, when you come and visit, you will see. We also have our IJAC opportunities. That's probably been one of the think students have really enjoyed going to, taking pictures, sharing with peers, and sharing their experiences has helped spark some career interests, as well as the elective courses in elective av, and then our onboarding process with families.
What does that look like?
So for MLA, there is the MTSS system that happens at the high school, and then a referral happens into MLA. The family come have an appointment with me. I sit, go over the expectations, talk about and learn more about the barriers that are happening with the student to potentially as to see why MLA may be of support. We provide a tour, introduce them to their advisor, and then talk about some of the things that we have implemented with the advisory, our expectations, identifying scheduling, in our flexible scheduling and what would work best, and then hear some hopes and dreams from families as well as they come to MLA.
Part of that onboarding process too, because I've been part of some of them with Jordan, is also going through the platform of Inventum and showing what they actually will see from a parent perspective versus a student perspective, and also how they could get support and the check-ins. That was another critical point that I think Jordan highlights with families too, about having we're gonna check in at 2 weeks to see where you're at, how you're doing, to see if we need to make any adjustments to your plan and things like that. So,
thank you.
All right, so forecasting for this dropout prevention funding is we are going to continue the programming, continue support with our SRS positions. That's highly needed in all our buildings, not just one particular over the other. Saturday school will continue, credit recovery programs and summer school programming at all levels, and of course MLA. So. And then the last piece here, a piece of data here, is how does this impact our students? You'll see a historical view from 17-18 all the way to 23-24. We don't have last year's data yet that the state has provided as far as graduation or dropout rates, because this is directly off of our state profile from the state of Iowa. So there has been a decrease in the graduation rate and an increase in the dropout rates, but we're hoping to tackle that with some of the changes that are occurring across all buildings, but specifically at the high school through intensive work over their Tier 1 process, through the PLC process, and their Tier 2 and 3 through the MTSS process that we're trying to establish, which will lead and bleed into MLA, and vice versa, how Jordan will also use that same process to help navigate students heading back into the comprehensive school versus MLA or MBA. So, any questions? No, thank you.
Randy, you might have answered this already, but what is the primary reason for the projection of the significant increase in spending authority for at risk
It's
this year?
driven by our state cost per pupil, but it's always the prior years. So the FY, we're currently in FY '26, but that calculation was based off of the FY '24 student cost per pupil. So it's been, so this year's will be based off of the current year cost per pupil, which increased from last year. So there was a year lag behind with that. Yep.
So then you're probably thinking in the next year,
It'll probably still always, because your cost per pupil typically always goes up, because that's what that state supplemental aid is. So,
Got it.
Last year it was 2%. Even state supplemental aid's being projected to be 1% this year. That's still going to go up. The other piece of that calculation is the enrollment, though, too. So if one deviates much more than the other, there is a potential for a drop in one year to the next. But even with, because it's weird, it's taking last year's cost per pupil plus at times this year's certified count. So there was a drop in our enrollment, but the increase in our cost per pupil last year helped offset that to where there's still an increase in that total authority request.
Yeah, what he said.
That's how the maths out. So.
I went to 201, Finance 201
I
at the
heard it.
board.
You did good.
I kind of understand. I do understand. I do.
I'm following.
Yeah.
You're a step ahead of an L. So
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Kidding. You're doing great.
So,
Nothing.
Jordan, you had mentioned the potential for 5 mid-year grads, right? 5 or 6. So it was a good reminder to me that, and I'll reach out to Justin about typically at that January board meeting, which falls a little bit before the end of the semester. We just have one meeting in January. You would put forward those 5 or 6 names along with whatever Justin might have at the high school, and then we would recommend approval of their graduation pending successful completion of all their requirements at the end of the semester.
Do we do any sort of ceremony for mid-semester?
I think they're invited to do the end of the year
They're
with
invited
their
to the end of the
peers.
year. Okay.
Is that right, Eric? Generally, yeah.
Yeah, they have to wait.
Okay. I didn't remember having one, so I thought I'd ask.
Yeah, we handle that way, and then of course sometimes there's summer graduates too, where there's a separate ceremony for that. Versus making them wait for the whole year, the next year.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. So we made it through the BEDS, Basic Educational Data Survey, that was due in October, and there was a lot of data about our staff. Tonight I am just going to present a little bit of some of that data about our staff as compared to our students. And so, as I said, there's a lot of data, and I'm just going to focus on a few pieces of some demographics about staff and students that I could gather. I was able to find the last presentation of this type that was presented by Nora in 2022, so I'm tending to compare to that data so we can see growth or decline, however that comparison is with our staff information. And then I'll show some side-by-side statistics. So this is the agenda of all of our staff, and that's nearly 1,000 staff members. And this actually represents an increase of the male population by 4% since 2022. So that's pretty exciting. Next slide, please. Amongst our administrators, we have more heavily weighted with female a little while back. We're closer to 50% now between the male and the female population amongst our administrators. So that's kind of a nice little kudos for us that we are balancing that out. And then among our principals, we actually were more heavy on in 2022 on male administrators, school administrators, and that's closer to 50% as well now. Kind of exciting. And then here's the gender of our certified staff. And this among certified staff, while I just previously said that we had an increase of male among all staff, we've had a decrease in male teachers across the district. Can't tell you exactly which area that is. And then, of course, our students, with 5,000 of them statistically, they would be closer to 50-50, which is demonstrated here. And so when you put those two together, you can see there's a little bit of a misrepresentation there amongst genders for our students. However you want to, do you want to see that it's good or bad? Next, we're going to talk about race versus ethnicity. There are 5 racial categories recognized by the United States government: white, which includes Middle Eastern and North African, Black or African American, American Indian or Alaskan Native, Asian, Native Hawaiian, or other Pacific Islander. And race is used to group people based on their physical traits like skin color and hair texture, as well as ancestry. And then there's ethnicity. So this is where it kind of gets funny with some of our data. Ethnicity is based on a shared cultural factor such as language. And so we just, in the United States, just recognize, are you Hispanic or not Hispanic? Next slide, please.
In the white category, what's that mean? Includes?
Middle Eastern and North African.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk more about this, but it's interesting how people place themselves in those race categories as well because they're so limited. So here are the big three race ethnicities of all staff. So 76% of the staff identify as white, 18.6 identify Hispanic, and then 2.4 as Black. Other categories, Asian is about 2.3%, and both American Indian and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders less than 1%. So here's the race ethnicity of our students. So if I just got finished saying that 18.6% of our staff are Hispanic, there's 56.8% of our students is Hispanic. And if Black was 2.4%, students are 3.6%. Multiracial was not an option for our staff, although it is an option for our students and their parents to identify. And this data was taken off of our Iowa school performance profile for our district. In Asian, 6%, where I said for our staff it was 2.3%. So now if we look just at our certified staff, the race and ethnicity, if we just got finished saying that for our staff it was 18.6% and our students was 56.8%, for our certified staff it's 7.7%. So we do have a larger than average representation of persons of color amongst our certified staff as compared to the state, but we're still not in a good spot with our students if you look at the next slide. So here are the top three race or ethnicities by certified staff versus students, and you'll see that the widest flip-flopped in those two, between those two groups, and with Hispanic. But Asian is one other third one, but they have the same three top groups. So when we talk specifically about the race, this is where it changes. So this is for all of our staff, and if you are Hispanic, you're also, as an ethnicity, then you're also expected to identify race. So then a large portion of Hispanics, they're like choosing which one do I pick of these 5 government categories. We'll choose white. However, some have chosen American Indian or Native American as an option. So then that kind of changes the numbers a little bit. If you've been looking through the slides thinking, how did this number change this way? And that's for all staff, all 1,000. Next slide, please. And then you'll notice again that that white category changes. For certified staff, it goes up because the other categories go down. Go ahead, Amy. And as we pointed out, of our current staff, all of our staff, there's 18.6%, but certified staff is 8.1%. So we have actually grown almost 7, did I get that right? Let me just get that slide. Yeah, 7.3% in the number of staff members who identify as Hispanic, Latino since 2022. Other statistics about our staff, we remain at about 10% staff with this, who have identified with disabilities. They've told HR that they have a disability. 2% veterans that we recognized last month. Certified staff, this actually went down. The number of staff members who have a master's degree actually went down from 57%. And then I included some of our classified staff. This is our hourly employees and their college education. So 26% have attained some college education, while 19% hold associate's degrees or higher. We have some paraeducators hold master's and bachelor's degrees. So all kinds of different reasons that people take on different roles in their lives. We currently have 13 openings with the 3 new retirees who've identified. The majority are in special education. We still have 2 science openings, one at the high school, one at the middle school. We now have 3 math high school openings, a first grade teacher, and an ELA. So we'll get started on those right away. I have a recruiting event in Sioux City at Morningside College next week. So, and then we have one and a couple more in March. The big ones, UNI, Iowa, and I just registered for Iowa State today. So we want to get out there and get seen right away. Any questions?
Be interesting to find out what the state average is on certified staff with master's degrees and beyond.
It'll be interesting in trying to find that data.
I mean, half of our roughly 400 plus people having master's degrees is, a good thing.
It is a great thing. It is a great thing to be in charge of that, as I tell my daughter. Any other questions? I'll try to find that in.
Were there any surprises to you when you were pulling that data together?
There were no surprises. It was comforting to know that, for example, that we're trying to balance the genders in terms of administration, and that's not just administration in the building level. That's administration in district-wide. So people are having opportunities and seeing themselves in roles. But we worked really hard too, right, to get our positions out there across Iowa, so that there are others who can think about coming to Marshalltown too. And we just saw Jordan and a variety of other administrators that have been presenting who are new to the district, that we were out there advertising in some bigger places. That's a concerted effort on your part, Dr. Schutte.
I thought it was interesting that, the gender breakdown of certified staff looks like we're kind of right on with the state average. But I guess looking at the gender breakdown of admins, the men are sort of overrepresented.
They are when compared to
well, and even in comparison, if 23% of your certified staff, isn't that the pool, generally speaking, that your admins would come from? I mean, not necessarily, but they would be certified staff someplace, right? Not necessarily here, but if 23% of the certified staff is male and 40-some-odd% of the admins are male, then in some ways they're overrepresented.
Correct. And part of that could be in relations to their aspirations to aspire to higher levels of leadership. Because I think that if we were to begin digging into some of these endorsements that people have, there are quite a few people across the district who have administrative endorsements. So there's an aspiration, and then there's only so many spots. Right. Think about, there's like 15 principals. That's all there. There's not a lot of openings.
Yeah, I'm not making a judgment. It's just an interesting.
Well, the other thing that's a challenge is for a district of this size, there aren't a lot of what I would call entry-level positions. There's assistant principalships at the high school, then there's one at intermediate and or middle sometimes. But, you know, it's pretty tough in this size of a district for someone to cut their teeth as a lead principal, for example, in an elementary school.
Yeah, you've also got sample size issues too with the, there just aren't that many administration
And
positions.
when you think about our teacher leadership team, they're very underrepresented amongst males and the teacher leadership team. Heavily weighted with female. So it's another opportunity for them to become more familiar with instructional leadership as they aspire to be building leaders.
Right.
Yep, instructional coaches and CPDLs.
And it's been interesting because that whole program was developed to provide leadership opportunities in lieu of having to go become a building principal. But what we found is a number of our former teacher leaders have in fact gone on to get their administrative degrees and then gone on to become principals somewhere, so.
And I think many of them continue to be encouraged to consider a role in school administration.
Yeah, I think it's a huge, and in some cases, an expected feather to have in their cap to be able to say that they've been a teacher leader in a district, whether it was as an instructional coach or like in our district, a CPDL, and those types of experiences, as a lot more weight has been put into instructional leadership for these leadership roles versus managerial. So.
And that's why some of them stay as instructional coaches, because they really enjoy that part of being a leader versus the managerial role.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to recruiting events at Morningside, UNI, Iowa,
and Iowa State.
And
And Ellie's volunteered to be the tribute to go to Wartburg, I believe. She came back, she was ready to go. We have some teachers who want to be partners with us too, so that they can go and talk about their experiences in the district and how great the district is. So that's pretty exciting to hear. Not sure that their principals will appreciate them having a day off, but I think students would love to hear directly from the teachers on what drew them to our district and what's making them stay.
Yeah, I think that's a very powerful tool in recruiting, is having folks go with you that the students can see themselves reflected in those individuals.
Absolutely. So exciting times.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Mitch was going to join through Zoom. Is he on, Amy?
Can you ask him to say something?
Mitch, can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
I don't think, do you have a song?
If not, I got his email so I can speak to it if he's unable to.
I can't unmute.
Oh, okay.
Try this again.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
I was waiting for it.
Sorry about that. For some reason, it kicked me off, and I wasn't a panelist when I came back on. So I apologize to everyone for not being able to be there in person. I was actually under the weather all weekend and was out of the office today, and so I don't think you guys would have wanted me there in person anyway. However, there's been some back and forth conversation here this afternoon between myself, Randy, and Theron in regard to the amendment document that you guys have in your board packet. We received 3 bids for the elevator rebid. shortly before the Thanksgiving holiday, and knowing that we had a kind of tight deadline there, we put together the amendment so we could get on the board agenda prior to being able to complete the scope review with the apparent low, which was TK Elevator. They're based out of Omaha, but have a location in Des Moines as well. So that scope review meeting was ultimately scheduled for earlier today, in the hopes that we'd be able to get everything approved, go through everything, and then have the conversation tonight. However, in discussion with my team who was handling the scope review today, it was found that TK Elevators bid was inconsistent with the specifications, and so in that it needed to be deemed incomplete and would withdraw that bid from being able to be considered due to the fact that it did not meet the specifications put forth by the design team Envision Architects. That being said, the conversation with Randy and then emails back and forth between myself and the district this afternoon was that we would be scheduling a scope review with the second place bid, which is Kone. Kone was originally one of the basis of designs, however that was changed at the completion of the design development process. Still a very reputable company, still within the overall advertised budget for this bid package. That being said, that would require us to then request of the board a potential special board meeting to avoid any scheduling conflicts. Randy, I don't know if you want to speak to what we had discussed as potential options to see if that would be something that would work for the board. If so, then that would be something I would travel down during one of those, or one of the other members of my team would travel down for one of those options.
Yeah, I can, unless Theron wants to speak to it, I guess. So the dates that were thrown out looking at schedules was this Wednesday, December 3rd at noon, and then the other date was December 9th at 4:30.
Which is a Tuesday.
Which is a Tuesday. Those were the only two dates before the December 15th meeting. I believe, and Mitch, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's some conversation that needs to be had with Michael as to, because part of the process, or part of the reasoning for this early bid package was to kind of make sure that we hit timelines with long lead times on some of the items that need to be ordered for these bid packages. So I believe there was some conversations that were going to be happening to see if, because it was our understanding that we had to get this done before December 15th. If those two special meeting dates don't work for the board, I think we would just have to look at approving this at December 15th and then work through any potential construction timeline challenges at that point. So the recommendation tonight will be to table this item until the Boyd Jones team can thoroughly vet at least the Kone, the next low bidder, to make sure that they meet the bid spec requirements. And then also Dr. Schutte and myself are looking for some feedback from the board regarding availability for a potential special meeting.
Give me those dates one more time, Randy.
This Wednesday, December 3rd at noon, or next Tuesday, December 9th at 4:30.
Okay. Let's do this. Does Wednesday at noon work for at least a majority of the board? One no. One yes. Yes,
I'm doing
yes.
thumbs up.
I'm doing thumbs
Sure.
up.
I don't know. That's okay, because we got 5 anyway, so. So, I mean, when you find out, that'll be wonderful, but.
If you have 5, I'm good.
Don't we have 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess.
Or you would sell the quorum, yeah.
We'd have a quorum. Is the 9th better for everyone? Zach still doesn't know.
No.
I'd rather do Wednesday if I'm available.
Okay, so it looks like Wednesday actually gets a majority and the 9th is not. Okay. Does that, Mitch, is that sufficient time for you and your team to do what you need to do?
I believe so. From my standpoint, in updating the actual amendment that you guys have in your board packet, absolutely can be done. We should be able to have that scope review meeting tomorrow to make sure that we cross all those T's and dot the I's ahead of that Wednesday meeting. And the Wednesday meeting should be fairly quick. We're going to review similar to what you guys had seen for the last amendment. This one's going to be even a little bit less than that since it's just one bid package that we're approving.
Okay. So with respect to this, the recommendation is to table this agenda item and take it up at a special meeting to be held at noon on Wednesday, December 3rd.
Correct, and that would need a motion and a
Yep.
vote.
So is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So that's Morales Gazlinga. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. That motion carries then 6-0. Okay, Mitch, you gonna do the Franklin Field change orders then?
This one I do not have the background on. I mean, I can speak to anything that I can.
I can speak to it. That's, yeah.
Okay, well, Randy's
Randy, I
Randy's
assume you
gonna
and
talk
Michael
and
have talked about this already.
So similar to previous change orders related to the various bid packages on the project. Essentially 3 change orders in front of you tonight, similar to previous practices. First one is for H2L, change order number 3 for a net credit of $25.96. This is to zero out the leftover allowance that was built into the bid budget with the contractor. And then the next 2 change orders are for construct. Change order number 4 was to capture additional excavation and imported rock for bad soils encountered on the north side or north section of the east retaining wall, along with capturing additional excavation, demo, and subgrade prep. This change order was a 0 change order because it came out of that bid package's contingency. And then the third item is change order number 5 in relation to that. Out of that bid package contingency, there was $27,480.99 left over. That was basically a 0 left over of the allowance for the contractor coming back to the district. So in all, total of just over $30,000 in contingency coming back to the district is what we're asking for approval for tonight on that project.
Are there any questions? We can do that in one motion,
Yes,
Randy.
yep.
Okay. Then is there a motion to approve change orders 3, 4, and 5 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Stanley Wise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. That motion carries 6-0. And is that, are we finished with Mitch for the evening?
Yes, that's it for Mitch. So.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, guys.
See you Wednesday. See you Wednesday.
We'll provide lunch as well. Either we will or Boyd Jones will for Wednesday. With the
think
heavy
that's a great
emphasis
idea.
on, I'll suggest Boyd Jones for inconveniencing us.
Reese is here to talk about the parking lot project.
So I'm Reese Hogman with Clapsaddle Garber, and with the MHS parking lot improvement project. It was contracted with Construct. It has been completed in accordance to the terms and conditions of the contract. They also completed in the specified time frame, and we recommend the board formally accept this project and proceed with final payment.
Are there any questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the engineer's statement of completion for the MHS parking lot project as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Wise Morales, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
I have a question. Which part of the parking lot was this for?
It'd be the part in front of the entrance to the stadium and then a portion of the parking lot to the south of that, just on the other side of, there's that main walkway that goes from the roundhouse down. So were they staged primarily?
It's what I would call the marching band practice parking lot.
And
then just on the other side of the sidewalk to try to clear up what Dr. Schutte referred to as the broken leg waiting to happen.
I thought that's what it was for, but then I got confused.
I think that's what you called it, Dr. Schutte, isn't it?
I think there are a few things I probably called it over time, but that might have been one of them.
That's the lot, that part of it, yep.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Reese.
Yeah, it looks great.
Thank you.
All right, Randy.
Okay. I will quickly talk about the next two items in one breath here. So it's that time of year where we can do our annual school budget review committee SBRC request for spending authority. There are certain items that districts are allowed to do kind of just a mass approval through the SBRC each year. Those three items are for one, increased enrollment. So if your certified enrollment increased, you can get additional spending authority for that. The next item is for open enrolled out students that were on the count in the current year that weren't on the open enrolled count in the prior year. And then the third one is for ELL instruction beyond 5 years. So we receive ELL or LEP waiting for students during their first 5 years, and then students that need those services beyond that, there is additional spending authority that can come with that. With all three of these items, it's the reason you're allowed to request the spending authority is, and as you're aware, school funding, it follows the student, but it's always a year behind, right? So with these items, these are expenses that we're going to incur this year, but we're not going to get the funding until next year, but we want to get the authority this year. And then when we get in the budget season, we'll have the conversations as to whether or not to backfill those through our budget through property taxes. So this year we did qualify for two of the three. So we did have open enrolled out students on our count this year that were not on the count last year. 63 students to be 63.1 students to be precise. So that was a spending authority calculation of $538,574. And then for EL instruction beyond 5 years, that calculation came out to $825,982. So request tonight to have the board approve the spending authority request. And then, as I said, when we move into the budget season, we'll determine if and how we'll fund those.
Questions? Okay, then is there a motion to approve the SBRC application in the amount of $538,574 for open enrolled students on the current year certified count, not on the prior year count as presented? I assume I got to do them.
You got to do them separate, yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Guzlinga Stanley. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. And then is there a motion to approve the application to the SBRC in the amount of $825,982 for English language instruction beyond 5 years as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Morales, Wise. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Seems like you guys are enjoying the new seating chart.
It'll be fun.
Super fun.
Okay, we've made it to policies.
All right. We're going to consider all of these policies initial reviews. I think there are some policies in here that are adjusted based on the recent legislation, which technically we could approve at this meeting. I might ask you to do that with some of them, but there are some that simply had some changes and are going to need to come back. The first of which is 208 board committees and 208.E1 ad hoc committees exhibit. Basically, we're adjusting, Randy, help me if I'm wrong here, but we're adjusting these policies to be more in line with, I believe, the IASB language and to not use ad hoc as a title since we just call them board committees. So I'm guessing that the 208E1 exhibit is no longer necessary. It's either covered in the policy or unnecessary. So with these two policies, amendments and deletions, we would bring those back for a first reading at the next meeting.
Any questions on 208 or the proposed to be deleted exhibit?
And then 401.01 was changed similar to what we've made on a lot of the other policies related to last spring's legislative session. It's a small or relatively minor change. I would recommend the board approve that. We could either probably approve that amendment and waive the first reading, because it's legislative change that we had to put in.
On 401.1?
Yeah.
Any questions on that one? Then let's just do that. Is there a motion to amend 401.01 and waive the second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Stanley Morales? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. That motion carries 6-0. Okay.
502.07, student substance use. There was a small change made here to further clarify that basically, instead of just saying tobacco products, it's tobacco and or nicotine products, because now there's nicotine products that don't include tobacco. I would recommend that the board approve this amendment and waive the first reading on that.
Okay, are there questions about that one, 502.07? If not, is there a motion to amend 502.07 and waive the second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Wise Gazlinga? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna knock out all the markers reviewed together here. So 507.02, administration of medication to students. We simply had some updates to the legal citations and references there. 607.02, student health services, no changes. Actually, 710.1E1, school nutrition program, program notices and non-discrimination. The only changes there were to a title and to a address. So I would recommend that we mark that as reviewed with those minor changes as well.
Because there's no changes
No
of substance, right?
yeah.
Is everybody okay with that one? Okay.
If you feel strongly you want them to come back, we can do that too. Which one was that?
710.1E1.
Mark it as reviewed?
Yep.
Okay. 802.02, request for improvements. This one does need to come back because there's some blanks in this one, Randy, where we have to put some financial parameters. So that one will come back. And then 804.05, stock prescription medication supply. Again, updating of legal references and citations. So no changes to the policy itself. So that would be marked as reviewed as well.
Any questions about any of those?
Sorry,
So
I
then,
missed
yep.
it. 507.05.
So 507.02, 710.1E1, 607.02, and 804.05. Do I have them there? And those would be the ones just that are
Mark has
reviewed. Yep.
Yeah.
80202 coming back.
8022 is going to come back with an amendment, and then you didn't talk about 50705.
Yeah, 50705, again, recent legislation increased the number of drills that need to be held, so it's a legal requirement. That was the only thing that really changed in that policy. I would recommend the board approving and waiving the first reading on that.
Because the update to the policy is just to comply with what the law requires? Okay. Then, any questions about that one, 50705? Not, is there a motion to amend that policy and to waive the second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Morales, Stanley? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. That motion carries 6-0. Okay, so then the only one that'll come back, right, is 80202 and
208 and 208.
And 208.
And 281, where we're deleting a policy.
Okay.
And now I'll hand it over to Maria.
Thank you. Okay, the first one, 213.1, public complaints, no changes, marked as reviewed. 215, Board of Directors records, no changes, marked as reviewed. 216.1, association membership, no changes and marked as reviewed.
Are there any questions for Maria? Okay, they'll all be marked as reviewed.
Let me ask a question there.
Abby, you got anything additional for communications this evening? Okay. Someday. On the committee reports, Dr. Schutte, you put that note in there about the reappraisal project. Did you want to say anything about that? Somebody put it in there. The county assessor is reappraising all of the residential properties in Marshall County.
Oh, did you put that in there?
Somebody put it in there.
Put it in? No, I
I
didn't.
don't know where that came from.
It's in there. The Acer committee met this morning. Do you want to talk about Acer?
Yeah, I didn't bring my notes, but we had near full house, which was great to see. We hadn't met since last late winter. Just a lot of exciting things, a lot of positivity I felt. Mike Ladehoff, as the mayor-elect, was there. On behalf of the city, talked a lot about the projects like the Water Plaza and trails and kind of where things are heading there. He was really excited about what appears to be a lot of new jobs coming into the community through either new business expansions, and that sort of thing. So that was exciting. The county was well represented with 3 people as well. Oh, the other thing Mike talked a little bit about was the upcoming closure for a full year of the Center Street Viaduct in order to do the necessary repairs there. So I reminded, or let him know and reminded the folks from the city, Carol Webb being there as well, that it's going to be really important to proactively communicate with us once the timeline's established for that, so we can figure out transportation routes and that sort of thing.
Yeah, they didn't have a timeline on that because they're going out to bid on it here.
Right, in
sometime.
January,
Yeah.
I think. They did talk about from their recent surveys and such that with their upcoming budget, they're going to work hard to do more regarding curbs and codes, and while yet balancing out, continuing to move forward with progressive, aesthetically pleasing type projects, but to put more emphasis on the code and curb piece as well. The Waterworks representative talked about the plant that they just started. They just broke ground and are starting to do, which is going to more than double the capacity of water within Marshalltown, which will be great for future business expansion and that sort of thing. Trying to remember what else of note was. Heather Gould represented the AEA since there's been a change in people at our local AEA there, and she talked about the new executive director being chosen, and he'll be working side by side with the outgoing Stan Rangans for the remainder of this school year. Iowa State University Extension was represented. The chamber was the only ones that weren't represented at this particular meeting, but, Ann Hauser-Boyens was there from Iowa Valley, and she talked a lot about exciting projects, including their construction of housing, because they're at like 122% or something capacity right now. They have way more kids than they have housing, so they've I think they've started to embark on trying to acquire alternative housing options for some kids beyond what they have available at the dorms, in lieu of, or in light of the fact that they're yet to build some new housing units. And then, but she also talked about their excitement over further improvements that this will result in that will hopefully bode well for us in terms of courting the state to possibly host the state cross-country championships here down the road too.
Any other committee meetings since the last time we got together? Okay. Well, the updated committee assignments is in there, so everybody can take a look at where they have been assigned or reassigned or whatever. Everybody should have gotten, if I did it right, everybody should have gotten 2 meet and confer negotiation, because it works out that way. And I tried to do my best to get you on the committees, or at least a couple of the committees that you wanted to be on. You may have some that you didn't necessarily want to be on that you also get to take a part in. So, and I assume that the folks who are actually in charge of making sure we get invited to those will update all those lists so that the right people get sent the right invitations going forward. Okay. Liz, looks like you have initial review policies for December 15.
Got it.
Okay.
I can do that.
See if you can do as good a job as Maria.
Even better.
Ooh. Oh.
We'll have to have a training before. I'll be here that day too, I promise.
Okay. Next meeting is December 15th. The high school will be here to present. I was trying to look and see, do we have a
High school.
December 12th at 1 o'clock is when Justin wants to have it. So I don't get to work on your calendar.
I'll be in Des Moines.
I'll be in Des Moines too.
So to be determined.
Okay. That's all right. I just thought I'd missed it, is all I was trying to go back and find it.
Okay.
Okay. So hopefully you'll be getting a calendar invitation soon, letting you know when that board visit to the high school is taking place. Okay. And then just another reminder, chapter 3 in When You Wonder You're Learning for next time. Okay.
It's on communication, I believe, that chapter.
Okay. Well, what have we done this evening to improve education for the students in Marshalltown?
I think it was great to be able to speak with and advocate for our legislative priorities with Senator Warmy and Representative Blum. I will say that I believe both of them do care deeply about education, even though they don't serve on those committees, and are extremely responsive anytime I've reached out to either one of them.
I think the two SBRC applications are pretty important deals. I mean, getting permission to spend that money that we have to spend for some really important things.
Funding authority is important.
Sounds like the high school has some exciting course offerings that they're going to implement. So.
It was great to have all three girls here tonight.
Yes.
We got to hear from Lenahan about some of their ways that they're using passion from their teams to create task forces that are trying to move education forward for special ed students. So.
Anything else? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Wise Wall, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. You're like, can I remove
Were you
Maria
just
from over
trying all
here?
night to get Zach to either make a motion or second one? Okay.
Yeah.
I had your first special